Hello, everyone. Oh my goodness, that beautiful tune is The Turning of the Hour by composer Rachel Bell. The band is Alchemy. The musicians are Karen Axelrod, Eric Martin and Rachel Bell on accordion. The CD is the wonderful Turning of the Hour, and you can buy it on Rachel Bell's website. We are posting that link now. Hello, I am Darlene Hamilton, and we are the Historical Tea and Dance Society in Pasadena, California. On our team today, we have, as always, we have Lindsay Verbal assisting with the program, doing so many things, handling media and our attendee questions in the after talk. We have Reed Wilson monitoring Zoom for questions and doing postings. And we have Larry Hansen monitoring Facebook live chat for questions and postings. I have a wonderful team, and here they are with some people in the background. Stick around for the after talk. It's posted on in our email that you got when you registered for this, or on our Historical Tea and Dance Society Friends page on Facebook. Yeah, we invite you to post questions in the chat box during this program on either platform, Zoom or Facebook Live. And we will get to as many as possible in the after talk, because there's a lot that we're going to hear from Wendy tonight. It's a wonderful show. I can't wait to get started. So let me jump right into a bio. Wendy Graham danced from a young age, but her passion for dance, along with her lifetime devotion to music and song, truly caught fire when she was on a youth dance tour in Denmark back in 1991. Today, Wendy teaches English country dance, American, and couples dance at her home base, the Perky Pants Dance Factory in Durango, Colorado. I want to go there. Any place that's called Perky Pants Dance Factory is a place that I want to see. She also teaches across the country and abroad, as far away as Alaska, England, and Denmark. She has been on staff at many, many dance weeks and weekends, including Pinewoods, Berea, Sidmouth Folk Week in Sidmouth, England, Chippenham Folk Festival, Country Dance New York, Michigan Heritage Fall Dance Week, Phoenix Winter Frolic, and Cumberland Dance Week in Tennessee. And you will understand why by the end of this hour. She has served on the Country Dance and Song Society Board and on the Lloyd Shaw Foundation Board. Above all, Wendy loves building community and sharing joy through dance. Please welcome our guest, Wendy Graham. We're so happy to have her on. It's been wonderful getting to know you this week.
What a pleasure, Darlene. Thank you so much for inviting me. And this is a long time coming. We've been talking since last summer about this.
We have been, yeah. And we have a very full hour, so we're going to jump right into it with our thing number one.
Good evening, everyone. I want to start with a quotation from Richard Wilson from his book, All Join Hands, which was published posthumously. And we're going to be using Richard Wilson wisdom throughout our 5 Things talk tonight. So the quotation is, dancing is meeting people, making friends, and living in community set to music. The rest is details. And I just thought that was a great way to kick it off. And we're going to be talking more about Richard Wilson and where to buy his book later on. So as Darlene said, my name is Wendy Graham, and I'm calling in from my home base in Durango, Colorado tonight, the Southwest Four Corners. And I'm really honored to be here tonight. I appreciate you hearing my message, but I'm also eager to learn from you and looking forward to your questions and conversation. I'll let you know that the first 2 things we're going to talk about are we're going to dive deep, and then we're going to get up and move, and we're actually going to be dancing and moving. And so you won't want to miss thing number three, and thing number five, all the way at the end, will actually be dancing. And so if you're a dancer, an organizer, a caller, or even just a teacher of any kind, I have something for you tonight. So I hope you'll listen in and find something of value. A little bit about me, people may or may not know, is that I grew up in Fairfax County, Virginia, so the DC metro area. So I'm from the East Coast. I went to college at the College of Worcester in Ohio, which is a Scottish school with Scottish dancing. I moved to New York City after college, and I've lived in Durango, Colorado for the last 17 years. To pay my bills, I've primarily done workplace talent management, learning and development, a side of marketing, and now I also do some local news anchoring. And I mention all of that because they're all things that really play into how I lead organizations, how I lead dance, how I organize dances, how I teach, and things like that. But my passion is folk and social dance. And up until the pandemic, I ran an intergenerational community dance here in Durango that was followed by a teen and adult English and American dance, or actually just kind of an anything goes dance. And a couple other things you might find interesting is I won an accordion at a dance weekend prior to the pandemic, and I started taking lessons with Rachel Bell during the pandemic, which has been amazing. And one of my dreams is going to be to play for dancers and eventually be able to call and play. And so that's why I picked that tune by Rachel. It's just such an earworm. I love it. Anytime I hear it, my mom's always playing it in her kitchen. And so I hope you'll pick up that Alchemy CD. It's amazing. And the final thing that's kind of interesting is all of a sudden I got an itch to advance my scuba learning, and I'm actually becoming a scuba instructor and a Dan Divers Alert Network instructor, and I'm going to be going on a scuba dance trip next month. And so it's kind of amazing when your worlds can come together. And so that's an exciting thing that's happening for me. So that has nothing to do with my talk, other than I just wanted to give you a little bit about me and some interesting pieces about what's going on. Okay, my first thing, and this is called Calling on an Island. And the first thing I need to do is give a big shout out to Lonnie Graham. Because yes, her Dave Weisler says hooray for scuba dance. I want to give a biggest shout out to Lonnie Graham because it's, she is my mom, and she helped me come into being as a person, but also as a dancer, a caller, and an organizer. And without her, there is just no way that I would be here tonight talking with you. And so I wanted to say a shout out and a thank you to her, but also to say that there she is dancing with my dad on an early American colonial dance performance team. And she's just been my number one fan, and she's been my number one supporter, and she's set such a good example for me as a dancer and as a person. And everyone needs someone like her in their life, to help them get started and to make it possible for them to keep coming back. So my question to you all is, who do you know that you could support on their journey? And so, because I've been on this kind of island and trying to survive without a lot of resources around me because of the where I live and everything, she's been so important. So, I want to give you a little perspective from where I'm coming from tonight. It might be a little different from other, folks that have talked, and just so that you can see my perspective. And I'm going to try to keep it brief, but if there's something you want to go back to during the second hour, make a note and we'll come back to it. So I want to tell you a little bit about my history and about my teachers and mentors and why they influence my approach and my thoughts on community dance. And so the first thing is that I really love simple traditional dances, that are accessible to everybody, but they're still interesting even for our experienced dancers. But I do things maybe a little differently and perhaps unconventionally and sometimes irreverently. And sometimes I'm mixing styles and traditions, music. And, I advocate for that when it works for you and your community. So come with an open mind tonight. And what I want you to hear is that it's not that I'm disco pointing, and sometimes I do it in an English dance, I'll admit, but it's not because I don't respect tradition. It's because I moved from New York City to the middle of nowhere and became a caller and organizer practically overnight in my 20s, when there was a time where there was very little on the internet. And it was like living on an island. So that's why I called this first thing Calling on an Island. And it was out of necessity to keep a dance community going, to bring in new people, to get people who maybe hadn't had any exposure, in order for my community to survive. And so it just meant that um I've had to work with what I had, which might be a fiddler who doesn't play English, or maybe I just don't even have a musician, so I use electronic recordings. I faked it till I made it, made it up as I went along and experimented with what worked and what didn't, and that's how I got here today. So keep that in mind as we go through today. So one another thing about me is I didn't grow up in a folk music, song, or dance family. Um, Even though my mom was a ballet dancer and she did get me doing, tap and jazz and ballet and stuff early on, I didn't start folk dancing until a little bit later. And my first folk dance teacher was my Fairfax County, Virginia elementary school teacher, gym teacher. But sadly, her square dance program, or Virginia Reel, isn't what got me hooked. In fact, it probably pushed me farther away from wanting to do it. And I still feel like I'm apologizing to people today. Like, I know you did square dancing in the 5th grade and it permanently damaged you, but please come and try our dance. I guarantee you'll have a good time. So, the damage was done. But luckily, a year later, when I was 13 in 1991, with a passport in hand, because of my mom, I got invited to a youth dance tour of Denmark for almost a month with 4 host families. And this was led by Barbara Harding. And this is us in Legoland in our outfits. And there was just 8 of us, four guys and 4 girls. And pretty much everyone was like brand new. And this just really basically was what got me going, because I realized that I had a passion for travel and dance and cultural exchange. And so Barbara Harding was an amazing resource for me during this tour. Here are some fun photos of our dance tour in Denmark. We danced everywhere, and I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. And there is a host sister there, and I got to stay with 4 host families. And believe it or not, I'm still in touch with 2 out of the 4 host families. So that's pretty incredible. Been to one of their weddings. There's Barbara, and there's some American dancers and Danish dances in front of the Queen's boat in Denmark. And let's see what we have next. Okay, and here's Barbara Harding. And so she is my first dance teacher, and she's a real firecracker. And that's why I made this collage for her. And we were, there she and I are together. And there was probably a couple more of Barbara. And there she is with her son and her daughter-in-law. And in Berea, Kentucky. And there's her dance group. We saw some pictures earlier of my mom and my dad, their performance group. And there's Barbara when I visited her with my British Aunt Jeannie suite. And that was the last time I saw Barbara before she passed on. And another cool person that came on our trip who I didn't know, I was like, who's that guy? When I first was on the plane with us, is John Ramsey. And he was there's not a great picture of him, but this was my camera when I was 13. I didn't know how to focus. And he had been at John C. Campbell Folk School and was with the Berea College dancers at the time. So he ended up becoming a real influence for me as well. And so this trip was transformative. It was a life-defining moment. I can go back to everything, pretty much goes back to that trip. I want to tell you a little bit about Barbara. We were looking at some pictures from her. She was originally from Cambridge, Mass, and she moved to Herning, Virginia in 1950, and she led English, early American, American dances in her home, Harding Hall, which was a child care center by day, but it had been built so that all the little toys and tiny little chairs could be moved to the side and become a dance hall at night. And and she had adult teams, and if she could take a team to Denmark, she is going to go. I mean, she was going to make it happen. And that's what happened with me. Was there was a chance to go. She pulled some teens together. Hurry up, let's learn and make her costumes and get over there. And she attended Christmas Country Dance School in Berea, Kentucky from 1952 to 2002 every year. Um, and there's our sign for Christmas school. And what I loved about her as a teacher was just that she didn't fuss with fancy choreography, okay? Her focus was to get everybody up and moving quickly. And so she was very efficient with her teaching. Perhaps some people felt a little too abrupt, I don't know. But she wanted to get people up. She didn't need music. So if you know Barbara or know other teachers from her era, she was really good at, Ricky, ticky, tra-da, deedle, deedle dum. And that was how she taught. And so she didn't even need a musician. But sometimes she had records or an accordion. She would play her accordion. And sometimes if we just had a fiddle, that would be fine. She was very energetic. She was all business, very practical on the dance floor. But when it was time to have fun, she was so youthful and playful at heart. And she just taught me that you don't need to have a big space. You don't need to have a lot of dancers or musicians to have a dance. And so that's kind of propelled me fast forward to today in Durango, where it's a small town. And hey, if we have 6 people, we can do triplets all night. If we have 8, boy, we have tons of things we can choose from. There's even 4 people dances. So, you can have a dance. And she is also the inventor of the flash mob. You can check that on Snopes. No, I'm just teasing. But she was known for anywhere you go, move the tables, let's dance. She'd take us to the Rotary Club breakfast, and because they would sponsor our t-shirts, and we would dance at their breakfast and move the bacon and the coffee aside, and we would be dancing. We danced in the street. You saw pictures. We were dancing at gas stations, and Barbara also actually got me calling first. She was leading a dance thing at like a, church Bible thing at my church. And she couldn't be at the end of the week performance. And so she said, "You're going to lead it." And she got me, I was in high school, and she got me leading these elementary kids. So anyway, she was a great, really, when I think back, she is really important to me as a person and as a community leader and as a caller. So I want to talk about her a little bit. So Barbara got my family to the Christmas Dance School, where she had been very involved. And that was another pivotal piece for me that we're going to talk about in the next section. And, that's where I got to meet other dance leaders who really influenced me, like Jim Morrison and Brad Foster, Jean Murrow, Teresa Lauder. And, that was an interesting place. Berea at the time was primarily English, Appalachian, and Scandinavian, actually. And then northern dances like contras and stuff were always taught by, exotic northern people who came down from New England or Michigan or something. So my background is really that kind of English, Appalachian, Scandinavian, or international. And then throughout high school, didn't do too much other than local dances and just that week in Berea. But when I went to college, I became the aerobics instructor, and it turns out that aerobics and calling are related. And so I took a calling class for fun with my mom at Christmas school with Bale Alkier. He's a lifetime contributor for the Country Dance and Song Society, and he also became an important mentor for me as both for calling, community dances, and couples dancing. And then after college, I moved to New York, and that was also really pivotal because I survived 9/11, and it was pretty traumatizing. But I was able to join the Ring a Bells Morris team, which was great for me because I was always interested in being on a ritual team and had never had an opportunity. And so they became a family to me. And because of them, I got to travel to New England. I got to visit friends who went on crew at Pinewood. So I had all this exposure to New England that I had never had growing up. And and even got, really involved in the country dance New York group, CDNY. And I mention all of this because I was a young person and there were lots of things going on in New York. So why would I go to a dance? Why would I go to a freed dance where she was just not being that nice to me? No, I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. And so, but I got involved, and they looped me in. Okay, and we're going to talk about that in the next section. In the thing number 2 is how do you loop young people in? And so they looped me in, and they got me into this. I was doing calling at the Christmas school only. I was not calling anywhere else. I would just go to my dance week and call there, and then I would not call for the rest of the year for like years. And so they got me looped into a callers. They wanted to get local callers, and so they did a 6-month program. This was for Contra callers, and I got done with the program and I got a guest slot. And then right then was when I moved kind of suddenly to Durango because my dad had been sick for about 5 years and it was his time and I wanted to be with him and be together with my family. And so that's how I got to Durango. And all of a sudden, the word spread that there was a caller from New York City, and and they were hungry to have a caller, and they needed an organizer because their organizers were kind of burnt out. And so I hadn't even unpacked; I was still in boxes, and I got a call the day of the first dance, which was January 2005. And at noon, and they said, our caller isn't going to come up tonight because there's a blizzard coming and he can't get here from Albuquerque. Can you call the dance? And I had never called a whole evening before. And I called a lot, but not a whole evening. And I didn't even have my dance cards because I had accidentally left them in Kentucky at Christmas. So I had some, photocopies on the floor kind of, and I was putting it together. And I was I guess this is tonight's program. And what's so crazy is that there were a band, but they had never played for dancers before. And the room was packed with dancers and a lot of new dancers. So it was complete chaos, but I'm here to tell you that I survived. So, right? So just kind of for other people that may be starting to call, you'll survive. You'll even be able to talk about it later. So right around that time, that was January, in March, was when I met another really important mentor, and that's Richard Wilson. And we saw, some pictures of him earlier and was using some wisdom from his book. And he came to Durango, which was 4 hours or more from his house in New Mexico. And he brought his wife and his 5 daughters for an evening contra dance. That's how, committed he was to community dance. And right away, I recognized that we were dance family and that we were cut from the same cloth. And I went up to him and I said, will you please be my mentor? I desperately needed support. And, of course he said yes, but we lived 4 hours apart. And then unfortunately, just 2 months later, he was diagnosed with cancer. And so he wasn't able to be my mentor at the time, but he did, he did come back after treatment, and he lived really vibrantly up until the end in 2011. And so he did become an important influence for me. A little bit about him in case you're not familiar with him. And some people may know his daughter, Karina Wilson. She's a wonderful fiddler and she plays all, English, American. She can do anything. So if you know her, that's her dad. And, what I loved about him and why I want to talk about him and things to sort of emulate as organizers, as callers, as teachers and dancers is he was calm. He was curious. He was democratic and very open to all thoughts and opinions. And he led very quietly, never forcefully. And he was just like this Pied Piper. We were all kind of mesmerized and hypnotized by him. And we just did whatever he wanted. We just followed him. And, one thing, for example, that I saw that was different was at this dance weekend, there was a heckler. Well, shouldn't we do it that way? And he said, well, let's do it that way. And other callers, maybe me included, would kind of ruffle you and you'd be like, no, because I'm losing control of the room. But he didn't. And he just said, let's try it. Let's let you guys try it. And then you tell me what you like. And so there was just a different way. And so he just had, just a different way. And that really shows in his book, the things that he talks about, the way that he looks at it. And we're going to keep talking about later on. So we'll keep moving along, but he was really wonderful. Um, so, anyways, just during this time is when I've just been able to grow into a caller and organizer and have an opportunity to grow. And up until now, been running, a dance here in my town and up until the pandemic. But what I wanted to talk about is, I moved here in the middle of nowhere. How did I become a better dancer? How did I learn to call? How did I collect material on this island that I live on? And I want to ask you all, especially if you're on the East Coast or West Coast where you're close to other communities and close to a lot of resources, who's in the middle of the country or far away that maybe you could support and maybe has questions and maybe needs this kind of support. And some really great things happened for me. I was lucky there was an organizers convention by CDSS in Portland I was able to go to. I happened to be on the board at that time, so I was traveling back east and could collect. Um, you know, for example, music. I couldn't even get music online at the time. There was no YouTube. You couldn't order iTunes music. I had to go somewhere and buy CDs. So all these kinds of things were difficult and maybe might still be tricky for people. So as you all in the community who care, are you familiar with where to get these materials, how to help somebody find those? Other things that were influential were things like Youth Dance Weekend, where I met Joanna Reiner and saw young people doing Barberini's tambourine like I'd never seen it before. And I will never forget that. Is a moment in my life that really inspired me about the possibilities. So, all these wonderful things. Christmas Country Dance School is one of the only places I know that has an English and an American Colors course for a week, plus open mics and after dance opportunities to call. And people need that. I'd love to see more of that. Um, other things is dance parties. My mom hosted a lot of dance parties and we fed a lot of people. How could I even learn dances because there weren't YouTube videos to watch and things like that. So, to be able to collect and learn is so important. And then finally, things like being paired with an out of town mentor. For example, David Millstone and I did an English ball together. All that preparation leading up, he was teaching me how he put together a program, how he put together the lesson ahead of time, how, he put together those kinds of opportunities. I am so grateful that I had the support of my community to do those kinds of things. So, with that in mind, you're going to understand where I'm coming from for the other things tonight. Okay, so number 2, grow your community garden, dance garden. Okay, and so I found this great tea bag wisdom that says plant kindness and gather love. And that's what this is all about, okay? Um, I'm really passionate about growing your community, and it's a huge topic. We could spend the whole night talking about it. Tonight, I'm just going to talk about 2 aspects. The first is attracting, nurturing, and retaining youth and new people, and doing that through inclusivity, making everyone feel welcome and safe. So the questions I want you to think about are: how are you nurturing your new and young dancers? How are you growing and supporting the next generation of dancers? And how are you creating spaces for them that feel comfortable, make them feel welcome, and make them feel included? So you have to go back and think about, what was it like for your first time? And then you can make it something for them. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got hooked and the elements that were there that I think you can think about. And guess what? It's not really about the dance. That's a piece of it. But this is why it's about a community, because, you might have the best dance in the world, but if you don't have connections before and after the dance, during the break, off the dance floor, then that community can't grow. So, after my dance tour of Denmark in 1991 with my youth dance team, we came back and this group disbanded. It was only put together for this tour. We were not gonna keep performing and touring, okay? And so there really wasn't anything keeping me attached other than my parents were good about taking me to dances around the DC area. But I was, and I am not exaggerating, I was the only person between the ages of 13 and 25. And that might be generous. Might have been 13 to 33. There was no one my age range, to dance with unless I brought a friend. And let me tell you, telling your friends you're going to a folk dance when you're 13, 14, it's kind of dorky because remember 5th grade square dance? So, Christmas school was great because there were a lot of young people there from Kentucky and from Kansas, but that was only once a year and it was 9 hours away. So, something amazing happened right after Christmas school. Went home, cried in my pillows because I missed it so much. I really did. All of a sudden, we heard that the youth dance team from Kentucky that I had just met was coming to DC to perform at the 500th Columbus anniversary celebrations. Like they were going to perform at the White House and the Pentagon, or the all over DC at these memorials and monuments and stuff. And we got to host them. And so then I got their addresses and we started becoming pen pals. And then just a couple months later, you know how exchanges work. If you go to one country, then you have to host them when they come to your country. So then the Danes that I just met came to DC and we hosted them. And then we became pen pals. And I even went down to Berea so that I could have more time with these Danish kids that I had made friends with. Here I am dancing with Henrik. I can remember his name. And down here, can anyone spot the director of Country Dance and Song Society in this picture? Yeah, bottom left, there she is, Katie Tarter. And so we made friends, we hung out. This was not always about dancing, this is about, seeing their costumes, seeing their clothes, learning their languages, learning their customs, all that stuff was so important. And being able to hang out with them and there's my host family from Denmark who came to America and we got to host them. And, we're still friends today. And all of this was so important. And getting to dress up and we had a sock hop and we did the limbo and, so much more than just the actual dance itself. And this is what makes it possible to get people hooked and to get people to become lifers, all these other things had to happen. And there was even, hormones was a part of it. I'll just say, I'm not kissing him, but we were very close and maybe the closest I'd ever been to a boy. Okay. And he was cute. So, and so something that I want to talk about is that, so this cycle of all of these exchanges were happening. I mean, the timing is kind of crazy. And, then I even got to go to this mountain folk festival and we're going to watch a video quickly. We'll just see a minute of it. But what I want you to look for in this video that I think is a key to success for those of you that are thinking about how to grow your community dance garden is this clip shows feeder programs, okay? Young kids, high school kids, college kids, alumni dancers, all in one place. Let's see it. And by the way, this is John Ramsey's YouTube channel, which you should go and look at if you haven't. It is such a great rabbit hole. He has spent a lot of time putting wonderful historic videos up there. You're going to love it. Okay, let's take a look from Sidmouth and all over the world. It's amazing. Okay, so just take a look. Here's the kids. Here's the elementary kids. And look, everyone can participate in the processional with little flowers. We have some older folks dancing with some younger people. And people from all over the country came, okay? This was a meeting of all these dance teams. here's the alumni dancers that still dance after being college dancers. Okay, that's good, Lindsay. That's a great little clip. Thank you. So you can go and watch more of that. I definitely recommend you checking out John Ramsey's YouTube channel. So other examples of great feeder programs, if you want to see models, if you want to go and check it out, if you want to replicate it in your town, is intergenerational dance weeks, English and American dance weeks, like Cumberland Dance Week, which is a Lloyd Shaw week in Tennessee. Registration is open, by the way. Scholarships are available. And Family Week at Pinewoods, and there's so many more weeks. So, getting and I'd love to talk more about intergenerational, what that means to be an intergenerational week versus a family week on the second hour. So ask me about that if you're interested to talk about that more. But getting, these young people involved early on, getting them going to these weeks is so important, because then it's part of their tradition, and then they keep it going, and you pass the torch, and so this is so important, showing all the different generations. And I didn't know how it would be to go to an intergenerational week. I don't have kids. I like kids, but I didn't know what that would be like. And it was so amazing. So we can talk about that more. What's the point of all of this is that it wasn't enough for me to just be alone and go to dances in the DC area. I didn't mind it. I liked it. But getting to do these events where there was a group and I had friends and we did stuff on and off the dance floor and we were pen pals and we were learning about each other and stuff. That's what got me in. And had these things not happened, I really don't know if I would have kept on in the way that I did. So I wanted to bring those things to light as you think about how to grow your dance community. Okay, couple of other things. So what else is something that young or new dancers need? And they need dance angels, and they need to feel safe, and they need to feel comfortable. And so one of the Richard Wilson wisdom is best way to fit into the whole, all join hands, you're ready to go. And another one that he has is the best line to find a partner is still, may I have this dance, or would you like to take part? So, having a dance angel ask you to dance when you're brand new and you feel so awkward and you don't know what you're doing is so big. I remember my first dance angel, Gib Gilbert. And what was cool is he came up to me at dinner before the dance and talked with my family. And so I already felt like I knew him. And then he said, hey, do you want to do the first dance together? And so I went into the dance feeling relaxed because I knew I'd have somebody to dance with. Because isn't that a fear? Like, nobody will ask me to dance. Nobody knows me. Nobody knows if I can dance. And so dance angels are so important. And the thing that I think about is that it was very awkward being 13 and learning to dance. I had glasses and they'd get fogged up, and I was afraid of stepping on toes, and I probably did step on toes, and I was very disoriented. I didn't really know what was going on because I had not been brought up in this. And English, believe it or not, or it's going to make sense to you when I say this, is so accessible to a new dancer because there is physical space. You're not swinging. There's a lot of slow, stately dances that kind of give you time to think about, oh, what's next? And there is, there's physical space, but there's like emotional, psychological safety space too. And so that was really important to me when I think about it. And I'm mentioning all this because I'm going to talk about for those of you that are wondering, or maybe you're experimenting in your communities about using gendered roles or not. When I look back, what I know is that I didn't really want to be touched a lot. It was uncomfortable. And so dancing with people I felt comfortable with was super important. Dancing with my mom, dancing with my dance teachers, dancing with guys that I knew, like my dad, or like other men from our dance group, from Barbara's dance group. And so that whole concept of ladies and gents and stuff was I don't even have any recollection of that. It wasn't important to me, and actually not emphasizing it was helpful for me because it meant that I could dance with another lady, if I felt so, if I danced with my mom and it was okay. And so fast forward, as a caller, I had spent a lot of years learning how to call and using gents and ladies or men and women. And I had this other experience at a dance week that was intergenerational where there were some kids dancing together. And I realized they were not gents and ladies. They were two little boys or two little girls. And they weren't cats or dogs and stars and moonbeams or larks and ravens. They weren't any of that. They were just two kids dancing together. And it really got me thinking about, what is my job as a caller right now? How can I make it fun and easy for everyone? I'm the hostess with the mostest. I'm the facilitator of fun. And it's more fun when everyone can take part. The more the merrier. How can I make this inclusive? So that is what got me really thinking about my calling. And I went home to my home community and thought about it too, where we had LGBTQ members. And I just thought, how can I make this inclusive so that everyone can have what they need? If people still want to have the traditional gent lady role, can they have that? And can other people also have freedom to play and experiment and try different roles and dance different configurations? And so that's where I really arrived at. It was a necessity for me to remove gender roles from my calling. And I do think that might be something that supports young people to feel safe physically and psychologically and emotionally, and also for new people. So just something to think about. I know this is a controversial topic. I know there's lots of reasons to do one thing or another, but I just wanted to share my experience and what's worked for me, and that I used to be on one side of the fence and then I completely flipped. And frankly, I've seen a lot of beautiful benefits I'd love to talk to you about later. Okay. So that's really important for young and new people, is to do that. And so along the same lines is to give them space. So some things to think about is, when you talk to people when you're dancing, or if you touch them and like try to steer them or direct them, it's actually interrupts their process so that they actually can't learn and absorb. So something I really work hard on is to help people lead, with their eyes, lead with your body, lead with your smile. And so think about that in your communities. That's going to be really important to helping young people. And so before I finish out this number 2, I want to end with some Richard Wilson wisdom. So he has a whole section called Resolving Chaos, and this is beautiful. To change the system, one needs to change oneself. To manifest tolerance, we practice tolerance of others. To resolve the tension of breaking down, we learn to give it space. And then he has a little bit more about that I want to read you. It's so beautiful. And there's tons more like this in the book. If you're interested, we'll tell you how to get it. Pushing and shoving are not necessary if first we move to where we need to be at the next moment in the music, and then accommodate those who do not. Eye contact and directional signal is generally sufficient to indicate where they should be. The receptiveness of others could be a limiting factor, but things happen on the edge of a figure where the music and the figure meet, both in momentum. The beats keep moving whether we act or not. Sometimes, if you do not act, you can create a space for a breakdown to fix itself. A wonderful moment of repose in the flow of things, transforming the moment of intolerance into a celebration of all and a return from whence we came. Isn't that beautiful? All right, so there's a few other things that young people need, and we're actually going to talk about it in the second hour. So I'd like to move on to, I'll just draw your attention to, yeah, we're going to move on. We can talk about more stuff later. So now what I'd like you to do is grab a pen and a pencil and,
Wait.
oh, sorry. Oh,
Number 3.
thing number 3 is dance zombies. I know you came for this. You want to know what it is. So everybody grab a pen and pencil while we do a little bit of reconfiguring, and get your pen and paper out. And I'm going to ask you, I'm going to turn off my camera just for a second. So don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. And I'm going to even make a little bit of noise while I move things around. So with a pen and pencil, I want you to, just the first thing I want you to do, don't look at the second one, is to write down, what are you thinking about right now? Write it down. Okay? About 30 seconds for that. And then I want you to write down, how does your body feel right now? So where's your brain and where's your body? Okay. And if you don't have a pen and paper, that's okay. You can even put it in the chat if you want. All right. Okay, now put your pen and paper down and everybody stand up and follow me. You're not going to hear me. You're going to hear the music, okay? All right, no talking, but now I want you to get your pen and paper, and I want you to either write down on the paper and or put it in the chat. What are you thinking about? And I'm going to turn off my camera while you're doing that. What are you thinking about? Write it down, put it in the chat. And now I want you to write down, how are you feeling? I want to see the chat now. Chat. I want to put some things in the chat about what you're thinking about. I'm mostly concerned about that, and also how you're feeling. Okay. You guys aren't very chatty tonight. So, okay, thanks Sharon and Deborah for chiming in, Alan and Terry. Okay, good. A few more things. Good. Thank you, Mary Jo. Oh, thank you so much. Everyone's popping in now. Ooh, Dave gets the winning answer. Said re-energized and not sleepy anymore. Exactly, because I was putting you to sleep. I was just talking, talking, talking. And for some of you, it is almost 10 o'clock. And this is why I call this section Dance Zombies. Yeah, movement felt good with Tai Chi. It's bedtime here, exactly. So guess what? We have these dances that go like 8 to 11 or whatever, or later at camps. And so people turn into zombies regularly around 10 o'clock, okay? And I live at high altitude, so there's this whole thing where we don't even have enough oxygen. And so okay, so let's back up and I'll tell you what we were just doing. So, and I'm curious, don't say it if it's not true, but my guess is that you might have had a lot of things in your brain before we did that. And then afterwards, maybe hopefully if it worked, you really didn't have anything in your brain. Is that true? And feel free to pop in if that's true. So true, Dave said. Why? Okay, here's the science. Because what we just did was cross the meridian of your body. And so our brain, right brain controls the left side controls the right side, and we just crossed. And so we just added a lot of complexity to what's going on in our brain. And so this actually caused us to be in the moment. Okay. And so that's why you probably were thinking about what you're going to eat or, what you're going to do tomorrow or whatever before we did that, or how boring this speaker is. I'm just teasing, hopefully not. And then afterwards you're like, actually nothing was in your brain because you can't think about it when you're doing these exercises. So right after the break, people go into a snack coma. At 10 o'clock, people become dance zombies, like you all on the East Coast right now, who are tuning in. And, as a caller, you get up there and you call your freaking easiest dance, and people are looking at you dazed and confused, and you think, what has happened? They have turned into dance zombies. So the answer is stop. Whatever you're doing, have everybody cross their feet and touch their toes. Don't pull your hamstrings. Whatever you're doing, do something, cross the meridian and clean the slate. Okay, so that's what we were just doing. And this is really about how to be here now, to be in the moment. So some other ways that this works is 10 o'clock at night or 9 a.m. in the morning at a dance camp, at the last morning. I use it actually, I always offer this about 15 minutes. If I have the early morning class at camp, I do this 15 minutes before the class. So that not only are they ready to go, I'm ready to go as a caller. So this is good for dancers, this is good for callers. But where are some other practical ways that you can use it in your work? So Dave says he's tired, shake off the sleepies. I had a difficult conversation with a colleague and I'm having trouble shaking it off, okay? So use it to shake off if you have a bad interaction with a customer, a colleague, whatever it is, let it roll off like rain. So this is a great cleansing. Okay, I'm ready for number 4.
All right. Number 4. Oh, the humanity.
Oh, the humanity. Let's start with a quote from Richard Wilson. He said, I took the idea of starting with my heart and worked my way out till now I truly feel like a big heart. So beautiful. And one more thing from Richard, which is giving weight. What then? Go forth into the find, fit with the dance twixt body and mind, with your heart and in the presence of fellow kind. Traditional practice of social graces we do well to give weight and take the time. So this is all about caring for each other and really remembering the humanity of this. And so this is for everyone, whether you're an organizer or a dancer or another talent as part of a weekend. remember that you have hired a perfectly imperfect human, not a machine. And how do we help people bring their best, whether they're dancers or talent, or volunteers or organizers? How do we set people up for success? And so, life, a reminder that life is happening to everyone at your dance weekend, week, whatever it is you're doing. There's weather, there's time zones, there's temperatures, hot, cold, muggy, dry, altitude differences. There's poor sleeping, lack of sleep. There's sharing space. There's health concerns. So, what has been done for me that I have greatly appreciated is, a break room, a green room that's just for staff. A snack basket on the stage, coolers of waters, a private room away from others with earplugs, extra pillows, extra blankets, or conversely, fans. Making it so I don't have to check a 70-pound bag with all of those things, having someone bring me a kit so that I know I'm going to sleep well and sleep comfortably. Organizers that create a culture of safety dance. Another thing I'd love to talk about on the second hour if you want to talk about more, but not only to prevent injuries, like just people manhandling each other because they're so crazy about dancing, but up front, organizers talking about keeping it safe. And that if you feel you've been, you're having a weird experience with someone, come and talk to us and we're going to be here to support you. I've actually had something happen as a caller and I didn't really feel supported by the organizers, but we definitely want that for the dancers as well. Fair and generous pay, equal and reasonable contracts and hours. There shouldn't be a pay difference between talent just because one person is more famous than another. We're all putting in the same amount of time if that's the case. A considerate schedule. It's camp schedule where there was only one thing going on at once. Yes, I know, what a concept. I didn't have to miss anything, and everybody at the camp got to be there if they wanted to be. And no expectations that to be a good camper, I have to be everywhere always. But that people understand sometimes, even though I do feed off of your energy, sometimes I need to be quiet and recover so that I can rest and repair. And I'll just leave with this thought on number 4, which is music, song, and dance is healing on so many levels. And I really believe that when we dance, we are like pounding rhythms into the earth, these ripples that ripple out from us. So every event that we do, if we could think about it, that we're not only healing the individuals that are there, that we're healing the community that's there, but we're sending these awesome vibes all over the earth. And can we just create a culture where we're kind and we're soft with our hands and our words, and we create, a safe, courteous, graceful, and gracious community? Okay, number 5. It takes 2 minutes to waltz. What does this mean? Let's start with some Richard Wilson wisdom. He said, best advice to a beginner, step on the beat, but not their feet. Offer a gentle arm and courtesies to speak. So one of the most exclusive things we do at our dances is a waltz. And maybe at an English dance, maybe there's just one at the end. Some dances, there's one at the half and at the end. Some dances, start with some waltzing, and have it throughout. But, you can relate when you think sometimes it's exclusive because it's like, I came here with someone and I should have my waltz if there's only one with that person. And then if somebody's single and doesn't have a partner and then all the couples are dancing, then they just take off their shoes and go home. I remember that when I was learning how to waltz, it was so awkward as a teenager. And I was just, oh gosh, I was, thank goodness I could step on my dad's toes. And he was worse than me, and so that made me feel okay. But um, getting what I'm about to share with you is so important to me to share because it's a way to get newcomers and young people feeling engaged and included when you have a waltz. And that inclusivity is so important. So, what I want to talk with you about is the 3 S's of waltzing. Okay. And I used to call it my 30-second waltz lesson. And I can do it in 30 seconds if you start your clock, but I'm not going to. I'm going to take 2 minutes. Okay. And I was really inspired by some stuff that Sherry Nevins did at a bear hug workshop many years ago. And then I sort of developed this lesson. And my process is if we have a waltz, either at the beginning, middle, or end, usually in the middle, before the break, I have everyone grab a partner and I have them introduce themselves. And one thing that's really important I learned from Sherry is, just to let the person know, like, just breathe, relax, don't be nervous because when people are really nervous, they actually can't learn. So we need everybody just to relax a little bit. So find a nice way to say that and maybe just have like a little discovery conversation. Would you like to lead? Would you like to follow? Do you have any injuries or preferences? Anything like that? Do I need to be careful with twirls? So that's what I call discovery conversation. We could talk about that in the second half as well if you're interested. And so then what I do is the 3 S's, and I want you all at home to repeat after me, which is the first S is say, and the second S is sway, and the third S is step. Say, sway, step. And so the thing about saying, and I learned this from the Grace sisters, Ellie and Leela Grace, who taught me to clog. And they were like, your brain is way up here and your feet are way down there. And if you say it, you connect your brain to your feet. And boy, this works for any kind of dance. So we're going to say all together, this way and that way, and this way and that way. Say it with me. This way and that way, and this way and that. Dave Weisler says, no, smile, you're right. It should be the 4 S's. Okay, we're going to add it. We're going to make it the 4 S's, Dave. For sure, you have to have a smile to be waltzing. Because this is such a joyful thing we want people to enjoy. Okay, so the second step, once they get the words, okay, now everything's connected, brain, and I usually point to someone who's like 6 feet tall because their brain is really far from their feet. And I love to do this with a beginner who's willing to be an example because it shows everyone how it works. And then they do it because I want to pass this along. We really want to get this out into our communities. Okay, so your job is to take this and pass it on. So then the second S is sway. So now we're swaying while we say it. And of course, leaders are left and the follows are going to the right. This way and that way, and this way and that way, and this way and that way. And then the step 3, which is now there's going to be 4 steps. The step 3 is to smile. Okay, so now you're smiling and saying and swaying. And what I'll tell people is if you don't get the last step, the stepping S, you're still waltzing because if people hear the music, if they're smiling, if they're swaying and feeling that luxurious waltz, then they're getting it. They're getting like the essence of the waltz. But then the last step is to step. The last S is step. And you're going to step with every time you say it. So here is my feet. This way and that way, and this way and that way, and this way and that way. Okay? So everyone's saying, swaying, smiling, and stepping. Then we don't even need a band for this yet. Then we all sing, and forgive me because I think I'm tone deaf. Have you ever seen a lassie go this way and that way? Have you ever seen a lassie go this way and that? And we all sing that song and we all waltz. And this is under 2 minutes we're doing this. And then I look up at the band and I say, hit it. And everybody waltzes. Okay. Only 4 minutes over, Darlene.
That was great. Oh my gosh. I told you all you would love Wendy if you didn't know her already. And I'm sure everyone who knows you does. All right, let me jump into all this end material so we can get into the after talk, because I know we all want to talk one-to-one with Wendy. Upcoming events for Wendy Graham. She has summer camps, intergenerational English and American at Cumberland Dance Week, and we're posting the link, and Family Week at Pinewoods. Woohoo! We're also reposting the link to order the book Join All Hands by Richard Wilson, which we can all see why she likes it so much, and we placed our order earlier today. And it also goes for donating to Folk Mads in New Mexico, so to the scholarship. So that'll be great. I want to ask you what your favorite dance is.
It's really hard to pick, but I picked Dusty Miller for the tune and the dance.
Yeah, that's a great one. I love hearing what these dances are. And, I don't always ask this anymore. However, Wendy specifically put, she is a tea drinker. So what's your favorite?
I really like herbal tea, and one of my favorite things is to mix green and peppermint with fresh lemon for all of you tea aficionados. But if I go black, I'm PG Tips girl.
It's hard not to love that if you've been to England. Yeah, thank you. Well, and thank you to our guest, Wendy Graham. We are so happy to finally get you on. Yay. And to our Five Things team, Lindsay Verbal, and in the background, Reed Wilson on Zoom, Larry Hansen on Facebook, along with our helpers, Kara King and Dan Bilter. And this week we have a special shout out thank you to our friend Jenny Beer, who helped out during the tech rehearsals while I was on vacation. So yay, thank you. You can watch all our past Five Things web chats, including people that you sometimes list that you wish you would hear one by, and they're already done. So you can find our link to all those web chats since we began in March 2020 at our Historical Tea and Dance website. We're posting the link for that. And afterthoughts are not publicly available. However, you may request a link to any aftertalk by emailing us. We don't always get to it immediately, but we will get to it. And if we forget, just nudge us again. A big thank you to all of you who have been sending in donations to our group, the Historical Tea and Dance Society. Is very appreciated because there are operational expenses creating the shows, and we do have our thing, our fundraiser pin. We still have them. So, if you've donated, you might have gotten one already. Wendy, you'll be getting yours in the mail soon. And yeah, just let us know if you want to get one of those. Our After Talk link is posting. We always post the chats in the Dropbox folder, which we're posting a link for, so you can download them easily in one file. And if you need that link because you can't copy it out of your iPad, just email us. Coming up next, we are off next month for Heydays Dance Camp. Yay! We're so excited. And I wanted to remind you that third Wednesdays is now our Five Things Day because we have reclaimed our live dance class. So we're not on in June, but coming in July, on July 20th, we have Dave Maceman. You've been asking for him for a while, and we finally have him. We're posting all about him in the chat. Some of you already know him. And talking about community, join us for tea time on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Pacific. It's a social hour for friendship and fun, and it's a safe place to come and just chat if you're feeling like, oh, Thursday, I can't wait till this week is over. Come on in and have some fun. Larry and Reed run that along with Liza. And it's a real nice hour that we spend just having fun together. All right, for donations, I want to say something because, it's always in the back of our minds, but it's not always said. Let's get real. Our wonderful community survives on a wing and a prayer, as they say, and is very much like a church community. Many do much for the love of this community. Any fees that callers and musicians receive are often used up in the cost of travel to get to the events and other expenses. And, they have to take time off from regular work, but we all do it because we love this community. If everyone showed their love by tossing a few extra dollars in the pot every time, what a difference it would make to those doing this work. So now's your chance to, because Wendy does this as part of her living. Every donation is appreciated, and those donations do add up, so no amount is too small. Support the work Wendy is doing by donating directly to her. We're posting the link for that. It really makes a difference. So I hope you all just give a thought to that. So many of us. All right, our exit music is Young Widow by the Bare Necessities. We'll see you all in the after talk in 2 minutes. I can't wait to get there with our guest, Wendy. Thank you so much for being on.